Hello, my name is Virgil, and this is Literally Books. I am going to make a video right here, right now, about using the Penguin Classics book tag. I actually didn't even know what a book tag video was, really. Please forgive me. And I never watched Steve Donoghue, who is the creator of this tag, before. Until I was sort of like softly tagged by Curtis at Deep in the Reads. Thank you very much to him for making his video, which I really enjoyed, and for prodding me to sort of like say, hey, maybe you should try this. So here I am trying it. I will put a link to Curtis's video in the show notes. Is it a show? No, the description, whatever. And then also I'll try and do the little thing with the card. Man, I'm terrible at it. Anyhow, this will be slightly a rambling video. Please forgive me. Actually, you must forgive me, because the original was more than a little rambling, which I guess is part of Steve Donoghue's sort of endearing quality. So right on. I'll try to stay roughly on topic. He spends a lot of time in his video in the beginning, like, oh, look at my dog, it's so cute, and it's like, is this a book video? I'm not really sure what's happening. If I got the right video, it's okay. A lot of people love pets. I have lots of family members who have pets and who treat them and love them as children. That's totally great. For some people, that is good enough. I have personally no pets. I have children. I have many of them, and they are more than enough. I would recommend, if you're deciding which one to get, you need to think about the fact that pets are less expensive. Pets don't go to college generally. They don't suddenly spring up wrestling expenses on you. They don't have really long Christmas lists. Anyways, I love them, and luckily they like me enough to let me come in the house when I get home from work. Home is the place when you have to go there. They have to let you in. So, and they have to let me in. This is part of the agreement we have. Anyhow, so I told you a little bit of rambling. Let's try and do this book tag video. Penguin Classics. Penguin Classics are these Penguin Publishing. They have a line of classic books that they publish. Generally, they're black books with like a little orange band with a tiny little penguin in it, whatever. And it's like, hey, we've got these books. We consider them to be classics. We print them in an economical format so that everyone can own them. I do not know the history of Penguin Classics. I own a decent number of books, and I've bought a lot of. I've probably read a decent number of Penguin Classics, I think. I'm not really sure. I've never really paid a lot of attention to the publishers of books and preferred one over another. Maybe that's something that's, I don't know. I don't know what to think about that or what you should think about that. It's just that I never have. I always just sort of like, when I decided to buy a book, if there were multiple versions there to look at, I'm like, well, which one do I like better? I don't know. And that's usually what I'd pick. Some books that I thought were Penguin Classics that I own are not. They're Penguin books, but they're not classics. I've got a lot of Gothic, like classic Gothic fiction, and that's sometimes Penguin, sometimes Oxford, sometimes something else, whatever. For example, I thought sure that my copy of Algernon Blackwood's Ancient Stories and Other Source. Wait a minute. Ancient Sorceries and Other Stories was a Penguin Classic. It's just a Penguin book. It didn't get the classic. It says it's a 20th century classics on the back. Wait, does that mean it's included? Is it included? It says 20th century classics. Does that mean? I have no idea. It's not the same. It's got a little penguin on it, but I don't think that counts. So I can't bring up Algernon Blackwood, or at least I just did, but that's it. So here we go. There's a series of questions. And I didn't know anything about a book tag before like not too long ago. I just didn't even know. I'm like, well, what is it? I see people doing this all the time. What does that mean? And I just, like I said, I don't watch a lot of BookTube. Or did I say that yet? I don't watch a lot of BookTube. I watch more than I used to, but it's just not something I've done a lot of. And so I didn't really know what a book tag exactly was. And I had to, I felt like I'm not going to say things that make me sound like I'm out of touch, but I felt like I was out of touch because I'm like, what is this? And I felt like I was searching something really basic, like how do you turn on your TV or something like that, or I don't know, something really ridiculous. It's like something like, oh man, I didn't like that. Let's just get into the questions. Okay, here we go. Question number uno. No, I'm not going to start carrying in Spanish because I won't get very far. Penguin Classics are the best reprint volumes in the whole world! Exclamation point. How do you... I'm sorry. Fuck, try that again. Penguin Classics are the best reprint volumes in the whole world. How many do you currently own? Excellent question. I don't actually have a solid answer to that because, again, I'm kind of like, what exactly qualifies as a Penguin Classic? I've got this, the Saga of the Icelanders, right? And it says Penguin Classics here, and then on the spine, but it isn't the little black and black cover with the, oh, I said orange, it's white. A little orange circle and a penguin thing. It's not that. So I don't know if this counts. So I'm going to assume that it doesn't count because we need to have rules. And rules say no. Put it down. Okay, fine. That would have been a cool one to bring up. But I didn't bring it up, and I'm not going to. There's another one. And I'm also not sure. I recently purchased Rashomon. Sorry. And it said there was a Penguin Classics, and I almost bought it. And then I saw there was going to be a reprint and hardcover. I'm like, ooh, that'd be really cool. This is a book I've always wanted to read. I'm going to read very soon. I'm like, that'd be so cool. I can bring it up. And I'm like, oh, wait. I don't know if this is a Penguin Classic. And I don't. It says it doesn't say that it's a Penguin Classic inside here. No, it does. I can bring it up. It does say it's a Penguin Classic. Therefore, it's in the list. I have Rafael Cervantes' Captain Blood. I've not read this book. I bought it quite a while ago and haven't yet read it. But anyhow, I've not read it. And something that I would do when I used to do, I don't do it so much anymore because I don't buy books at this place anymore, is I would leave the price sticker on until I read it, until I started reading it, and then I would take the sticker off. And this is a old Borders sticker. So you can just imagine how long this book has not been read. In fact, many of these have still the sticker on them because I have not read them. Sorry. Jack London this is Call of the Wild, White Fang, and Other Stories. I like Jack London. I don't love Jack London, but I do like Jack London, and it still has the price sticker on it. But I mean, I've read these. It was more like to have it. It wasn't like, it was like, if I want to read another story right around, I don't have to scramble or like, oh, I've got a story in this other collection. It was like, I want to have them all in one place. If I want to read one, then I can just go there and I'll be like, is it in this book? Where's this other book? Do we have that book still? Because that was what would happen. So that's 3. Then I have the Portable Beat Reader. This was probably my wife's book that she had bought, my first wife. And it still has the sticker on it. But I have read stuff out of here before, like read selections from here. But I didn't sit down to say, I'm going to read this book and read it cover to cover. And so for me, that's the energy I have to have for me to pull the sticker off. But I also don't like to leave them on too long anymore because sometimes they don't like to come off if you leave them on there too long. So whatever. But anyways, this was hers. And it's really, I think I've really enjoyed some reading selections here, but I've never actually sat down and like totally read the whole book. It's not part of this. I'm not supposed to count that. That's 4. Lord Dunsany's In the Land of Time. I really enjoy Lord Dunsany. Really enjoy Lord Dunsany. And this, again, was purchased. I already had a lot of the disparate volumes that are in here, but I wanted them all in one book. And so I have read Lord Dunsany, but I have not read this cover to cover, as you can tell by the sticker on the back. Sheridan Le Fanu's Uncle Silas. This is a book I really want to read and just have never gotten around to reading. In fact, when I purchased it, the guy who checked us out at Borders, this one actually has a sticker off. I don't know why. The guy who I was buying it from, who was working at Borders at the time, was like, "Oh, what's this?" And he like stopped and like perused the book for a little while before he checked us out. He's like, "This looks really good. I didn't know they had this." I'm like, he's like, "I didn't know we had this here." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it looks really cool. I like Sheridan Le Fanu." And he's like, "Oh, all right." So he's like, he was interested. I don't know. Anecdote. There you go. And T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland and Other Poems. Like T.S. Eliot. I think I'm going to be honest with you. I have read this. It's too long for me to remember anything much about it. But I think I mostly got this because of Stephen King's Dark Tower. But he actually it quotes Robert Browning as the child Ronan. Yeah, so that's not even, and I know that. I knew that when I got that, but I don't know. It had this energy that I was digging. Therefore, well, but I think the third book is Stephen King's third book, The Wasteland. Isn't there? So there's some reference there to T.S. Eliot. I think there is. I'm going to say there is and not check. A pretty recent one, and one I'm probably going to read of all these that I'll probably read the soonest is Thomas Ligotti's Songs of a Dead Dreamer and Grimscribe. I've enjoyed the selections of short works of Thomas Ligotti's that I've read before. I am hoping Ligotti probably. I've read before, and Grimscribe is going to be, and Grimscribe and Songs of a Daydreamer will be a lot of fun to read. In fact, most of my, I would think, I've got a lot of Penguin books that are just like gothic fiction and stuff like that. So that's another one. And then I think I have a couple more. Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. This was my wife's book. So I've not read any Bronte, and I've not read Wuthering Heights, although I probably should. I think I would enjoy it. So, yes, but I own it, whatever. And here's where, again, it gets weird, is George Luis Borges' selected nonfiction. This says Penguin Classics on the spine, and I believe it says Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition. I don't know, do deluxe editions count? I'm not certain. But strangely, George Luis Borges' Collected Fictions is just a Penguin book. So, what happened here? I don't know. Well, they are eliminated by default. Therefore, in my strict attitude towards this, I appear to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did not keep track. 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my gosh, 9. Although I guess potentially the no, I think it's 8 because I don't know. I don't know if I can count this book. I don't know. I'm gonna eliminate it. So I'm gonna say 8. I'm gonna eliminate this book. I'm gonna say 8. Yeah. So 8 it is. 8 books. Here they be. Look on and lament. There you are. There's that. Okay. 8 is the long-winded answer to a short-winded question. Number 2. Penguins evolved roughly 70 million years ago. What's your history with Penguin Classics? I think I might have already answered this question, unfortunately, because I ramble. Mostly my history of Penguin Classics is that I would buy them because I wanted collected short stories. It was usually because of short story collections or smaller works that I didn't want to buy individual volumes that have like a bunch of slim little volumes on the shelf. I wanted all that stuff in one book that I could grab and read and reference when I wanted to. Which is why it might seem like maybe I haven't read these books or something. It's not exactly true. It's just that I have not sat down with these individual volumes per se and read them cover to cover because I didn't collect them for that reason. Yeah, like I've already read Jack London. I didn't have to read these Jack London stories again. I just didn't own any of them. And so I thought I'd like to have them in case I want to read them. So that's why I have them. And, Captain Blood was one I go through long-winded cycles on reading, and Captain Blood was part of a nautical, reading thing that I was doing with tall ships and stuff like that for a while, which I might get back into at some point. I definitely read other Penguin Classics that I just not sure about. I'm pretty sure a couple books I'm going to mention in a minute. I read probably as a Penguin Classic, or at least as a Penguin book. So, forgive me if I didn't keep track. I don't know if owning it makes a difference or not. I don't feel like it does. Question number 3. Penguin Classic logo is, of course, a penguin, the world's most famous flightless bird. What's a classic that just didn't take flight with you? Well, I think I've mentioned it before, but James Fenimore Cooper's Last of the Mohicans. was a book that I both liked and was like exasperated by all the time. It had this thing where I think Natty Bumppo is the main character, Le Long Carabine, I believe is his name, his nickname, so to speak, the Long Caliber, and because of the long rifle that he fires. And he has this brave who's like one of the last of the Mohicans that sort of looks like his sidekick, so like his Robin, so to speak. So many times that like Natty Bumppo or Le Long Carabine would dress down this brave just for like the most ridiculous things, and also like really a lot of soliloquizing. So there's like a scene where the Lone Carabine and this brave are trying to like sneak up and see what's going on with these other guys, and he sort of turns to this brave and says, "We have to be quiet." And the brave's like, "Okay," and he's like, "You know what? Really? First of all, that was not quiet when you said that. And by the way," and he starts dressing him down. He's like, "I don't like the way your moccasins are tied. Listen, I've noticed, sometimes when you're sneaking, you're not using this technique. You don't do this. You don't got this right. Look at the way you're dressed. Do you call yourself a Mohican?" It's just like ridiculous. It goes on and on. And this guy's just like, "What?" I'm just like, I felt bad for him. Like, what is your damage, man? Just leave him alone. He said, like, okay. He's like, okay, sure. He's like, what the hell's wrong with you? You have no idea how to behave. It was just so ridiculous. At least that's how it struck me. It was just like, not only is he dressing him down, but he's also like, this goes into this long talk. I'm like, I thought you just said be quiet. There was a couple times like that in the book, and it was just crazy, and I just didn't understand why. I guess you could say it's a style. Anyways, it didn't really work for me a whole lot. I didn't hate it, or anything like that, but I just was like, oh no, I don't know about this. This is so weird. Why is it like this? Anyhow, question 4. The emperor penguin is the most recognizable species, but the Adelaide is everybody's favorite. Okay. What's your favorite penguin classic? I think this is probably my favorite penguin classic. I'm going to have to guess. And I don't own it. I own a Penguin edition of it, but not the Penguin Classic edition. But I'm almost positive the Penguin Classic is what I read, and that's John Steinbeck's East of Eden. Really great book. Actually, this book is one of the first conversations I had with my first wife was about this book. It was something that we had both read and both could share in the joy of how despicable Kathy was, and also how much of a pleasure it was to read about her horrible habits. And just a really great book that I read in high school, and I think she had read in high school, and then was rereading, and that sort of started a conversation that we had, which ended up ultimately in us being married and having children. So kind of an important book in that sense to me, but also a book that I genuinely loved before that. It's one of those books that sometimes you get forced to read something in high school or something like that, in academia, I guess, and you just sort of fall in love with it. It doesn't always happen, but I really enjoyed East of Eden. I really liked it. So that's probably a favorite of mine, and I'm like 99% positive that the book that we were given to read in high school was a Penguin Classic. Number 5. Penguin Classics began in 1946 with E.V. Renew's translation of the Odyssey. I hope that I got that name right. What's your favorite book from 1946 or the 40s in general? This was tough for me because I guess I just haven't read very much fiction or work from the 40s. I just didn't know that. I hadn't. So the only thing, there might be another book that I'm like, oh yeah, this book, of course. But since I couldn't do that, I'm going to say what I found mostly quickly, and I was like, oh yeah, I did like that book, which was A.E. Van Vocht's Slan. This is Slan and Slan Hunter. Slan Hunter was never finished by Van Vocht. It was finished by Kevin J. Anderson, but I think it was like half finished. Slan is a very early science fiction story, was highly influential, very, very popular. There was a saying, fans or slans. I think I said slans. Slans. Fans or slants. And it was a very popular book. Van Vocht was a very popular Golden Age science fiction writer. when I read the story, I thought, well, this was good, but it seems very, I don't want to say cliche. I guess cliche. I guess, it seemed like, boy, I've really seen this stuff before. And then I saw when it was published, and I'm thinking, oh, no, wait a minute. No, this was maybe not copying other people. This was like someone coming up with these ideas maybe the first time. And I think that's kind of the reason it's so popular. It might seem a little dated today only because because you've seen those story elements before, but that's probably because this was maybe one of the very first stories that had these elements. Van Vogt is one of the writers I'm going to be reading for my Barlow's Summer Reading Guide Challenge. Summer Reading Challenge. No. Let me try that again. A.E. Van Vogt is one of the writers I'm going to read for my Barlow's Guide Summer Reading Challenge Explosion. And which maybe I should make a book tag for that. That would be smart. Maybe. I guess. It's a little long-winded. Any event. But Slan is not on that list, but another book by Van Vogt, the Space Beagle. Actually, the Space Beagle is a collection of like kind of a, what do you call it, a fix-up novel of some variety or something. It's a bunch of longer-ish stories sort of sewn together into one narrative. Well, they're not separate stories, but they're really shorter stories or novellas, I think. Anyways, that's on this list. He's one of the few writers in Barlow's Guide to have multiple entries. I think he's the distinction of having his one particular book mentioned twice. I think he's the only one who has that. So if you are interested in what I'm doing with Barlow's Guide, I'll put a card here so you can go take a look at it, or I've got a playlist. You can look at it. That card will go take you to the playlist. There's an older video in there that feels very dated to me, but I left it because it's okay. I would say that the original sort of coverage of Barlow's Guide book is not great. The Redux is certainly preferred, and I think it's a little bit better thought out. Any event. Question number 6. Penguin Classics tries to enshrine the classics of literature. Name some books you'd like to see enshrined. Not a difficult thing to do. So I think in there that's sort of like pie in the sky sort of, suggestions. Okay. Well, I like science fiction, and so obviously I have some science fiction suggestions. We'll say science fiction hopes. The first is Jack Vance's Dying Earth series. The Dying Earth, Eyes of the Overworld, Kugel the Clever, and Rialto the Marvelous. Classic science fiction. The science fantasy, really, is probably a little bit better way of describing it. Some people say this is fantasy, and I'm always like, I don't know if it's exactly fantasy. I mean, it kind of is fantasy, but not really. So it has very strong science fiction elements, especially Dying Earth itself. But the reason I think this is of Jack Vance's, although it's not necessarily Jack Vance's best book, the reason I think that The Dying Earth is worthy of being in there is because it's influenced probably anything that comes from RPG, any sort of RPG whatsoever, tabletop gaming of any type, owes some DNA to the original Dungeons and Dragons, and the magic that is used in that game, the way that the rules around that work in that game are called Vancian magic after Jack Vance. They lovingly borrowed the sort of crazy sort of way that Jack Vance writes magic to work in The Dying Earth, which is where a spell is sort of like almost a living thing that inhabits your brain, and you kind of like bottle up inside your mind and then release, and then as soon as it's gone, you have to read the book again. You can't remember it permanently. You have to reread that book over and over again to memorize that spell each time. That idea behind how magic works was used in Dungeons and Dragons, and I think also this sort of really wonderful humor, especially mostly in the last 3 books. The Dying Earth itself, the first book, is really a collection of short stories that are sort of like interconnected or share the same world. And then the next 2 follow one character, Kugel the Clever. That is actually a serialized fiction, so it was published, it feels very episodic because it is. And Kugel is someone who is calls himself Kugel the Clever and is absolutely not clever, and gets himself into multiple ridiculous situations, sort of exasperating, but it's all very dry. It's very humorous, but it's extremely dry. No one's ever laughing. There's never an in-joke. You sort of like enjoy the misfortunes of Kugel as he tries to get one over on people, and fails miserably every time. And Rialto the Marvelous was also good. A lot of like backstabbing wizards who are just so petty and ridiculous. And Rialto is maybe the least petty of them. That's, I guess, his thing, or at least he's maybe he's not very petty, but he certainly is sort of surrounded by other very powerful wizards who are extremely petty and ridiculous. Wonderful fiction, a lot of fun to read, very humorous, great stuff. I definitely think that Jack Vance, I think that its contribution to to the public, to how much that element of how magic works, so inundated in so much media now, and also just Jack Vance is really pleasant and very deliberately overly wordy prose style, deliberately over wordy. Jack Vance is not necessarily writing purple just because he thinks he's so great. He does it to be ridiculous. Kugel speaks in a way that is ridiculously over flowery, over like ultra purple, so to speak. And it's on purpose, and it makes it very humorous to read, and it has a very specific style that's very recognizable and very enjoyable. So really love Jack Vance, and I think that the book, those books merit a collection by as a classic. The next, I think, honestly, is not really much of a stretch for anybody who's ever read it, but Gene Wolfe and his Book of the New Sun. It's already basically considered a classic by most who've read it. Most science fiction writers and other contemporaries of Wolfe have said pretty favorable things. Ursula K. Le Guin said he is our own homegrown Borges. Pretty wonderful compliment from a pretty wonderful writer. So of course it's 4 books: The Shadow of the Torturer, The Claw of the Conciliator, The Sword of the Lictor, and The Citadel of the Autarch. Really great fiction, highly inspired, I should mention, by Jack Vance. Gene Wolfe is a fan of Jack Vance. I think that he said that this had more inspiration from Jack Vance's Planet of Adventure series, which is a different series of 4 books. A lot of similarities between Gene Wolfe's Book of the New Sun and Jack Vance's Dying Earth and the sort of science fantasy. It's a somewhat fantasy-looking book from the outside, but the more you read, the more you realize it's really just science fiction. There is no real fantasy. Even Jack Vance's The Magic in there, you get the sense that it's not really magic, because both these stories take place so far into the future that all memory of our time and our existence is lost. He uses a lot of archaic language, specifically because he says that this book is from another time, another place. There's sort of a sense of like, oh, I discovered this book, somewhat like the Scarlet Letter, how, this book is supposed to have been discovered by someone. I discovered this book, and we don't really know when the writer says something about a horse, if it really is a horse. It's never described. That's a characteristic of Gene Wolfe in general. I did do a thing on Gene Wolfe not too long ago. Is it bad for me to tag my own videos in here? I don't know. I'll put a thing in there. You can, it's not too long. I did his book on the Borrowed Man. I want to read the Book of the New Sun again and talk about it. That would probably be a much more slow study. Probably not a single book at a time. Probably much slower. But I definitely think that this deserves it. I don't think this is maybe one of the only science fiction books I own that actually has companion volumes written by other people that explain or sort of like look into what is going on in the story, because it's multi-layered. Gene Wolfe took a lot of time to write this. He was very well known for writing books that you were meant to be reread. You were supposed to read the book and then think, and then sort of revisit the book with a new insight, and then think about it and revisit the book again and again, and it rewards those rereadings. You notice details you didn't notice the first time. Confusing or strange things will happen, and you just don't understand why until much later in the book. And then you kind of say, oh, wait, okay, that's interesting. Well, what else did I miss? Or what else was I confused by, but now is explained? Severian, the main character in this story, who is a member of the Torturers Guild, is an unreliable narrator. And you can tell that he's unreliable because the first thing he tells you is that I never forget anything. And let me tell you my story. It's highly suspect. And we know this from Gene Wolfe's history of unreliable narrators, and he tells us up front, listen, you better be careful. This guy is telling you his story, and it may or may not be true. The fact that he's a torturer might turn some people off the book. Think, ooh, this got a lot of torture in it. No, not really. It's not a graphic or nasty or really, a hardcore, grim book. It's not like that at all. As I said, it's very much a work of science fiction, very cerebral. I don't think that it's a book that should be gatekept. Sometimes there's some energy like that around it. I totally disagree with that. This is a book for anyone who enjoys science fiction. It is a lot denser on purpose, but it's a very rewarding read, and I think that it should be welcomed to anyone. You don't have to read in all these levels to this book to love it and enjoy it. You can engage with it at your own level, and I think that's a very important thing. I do not like elitism in reading. And lastly, I probably would say that Ursula K. Le Guin's own book, The Left Hand of Darkness, is certainly a book that I think should be considered a Penguin classic if it was something that could happen. Really great book about a sort of a offshoot of humanity on its own planet that develops multiple different genders, and that people switch genders throughout their life cycle. It's a normal thing. I don't remember how many. I think there's like 5 or 6 different genders that people switch between. Each one for a different time in their life for a different reason, and that the main character is an emissary from a traditional human sort of empire trying to bring this planet, these people, into their fold, trying to get them to join up, so to speak. And so this emissary is sent here to sort of bring this about. It's a really wonderful book, and it's also somewhat painful because it reads not like science fiction. It reminds me very much of that classic World War II memoir, Night. There's definitely elements of that in here. Really wonderful writing. I've always enjoyed Le Guin's writing, and just a real beautiful book. And also, I should mention, I think that I said East of Eden was my favorite. That may or may not be true, but I just remembered, I believe that I read originally, I'm not sure, Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, and I really enjoyed the original Siddhartha. I read at a time where it had a lot of influence on the way I thought, and I value it for that. I sometimes incorrectly recommend it to people as sort of like, this could do the same thing for you, and I don't know that that's true. So I shouldn't do that, but I really enjoy the book, and I think it's really great. I think I got it all. I think I did it all. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Virgil, and this is Literally Books. If you like what I'm doing, you can like and subscribe. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. I'll have link to Curtis from Deep in the Reeds video here, and to Steve Donoghue's original book tag video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.